to the Coach V Show.
Welcome to the Coach V Show, where our focus is your success and life fulfillment, to empower you so that you grant yourself the authority and permission to do and become whatever you wish on this life, with expert insights and interviews to help you, me, and we really work to be our best and live our best life. Where iron sharpens iron, together we rise. We are blessed today to have the main man of Island City Media Group, Joey Quenga, on the show, and we will be going over all it is that Q has been able to accomplish, his history and all that, and then some. Born and raised in the LBC, Q, that is his hood, his neighborhood, and where it is that he grew up. He was a college athlete that prior to that also played high school football in the LBC, worked from sales in corporate America, also in the nonprofit sector. Twice published author in public health, local government, and communications, co-founded an NHPI-owned station that broadcasts out of Hollywood, California, and boasts over 5 million monthly listeners. Has interviewed and or produced shows of some of the most iconic celebrities on the planet, including NBA legend and icon Metta World Peace, artist Wyclef Jean, and also the man from Boys to Men himself, Mr. Sean Stockman. And currently, Q is the CEO of Island City Media Group. Please put a virtual round of applause together for my man, Joey Quenga. Q, man, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much.
Man, what's up, Coach? How you doing, man? Thank you to everybody who is tuning in. Whether you are watching this on social media, whether you are tuned in to Island City Powered by Dash, we appreciate you. And I'll tell you, I'm very humbled to be on your show. Thanks, Coach.
No, thank you so much, Q. Q, let's just start from the beginning. What is the genesis of the Joey Quenga story? Where are you from? Where were you born? And I already alluded to the fact that you're from the LBC. But take us through that as we start to unpack some of the life lessons that you've learned, the behavioral models, the success frameworks to really bring to the Coach V listening audience and viewing audience, as we're going to be broadcasting this on Facebook Live and also on the YouTube channel. What is Joey Quenga's genesis story?
No, great question, Coach. First of all, I want to thank you for allowing me to be on your show. I am super humbled. Where did it all start for me? Well, I am a first generation Chamorro born here in the United States. My family comes from a long line of military. My pops was in the Navy for over 20 years, a couple decades. And really just, like a lot of us who family and ancestry derives from the islands, we come out and we explore and we navigate to this new land in hopes for new opportunities. And so Pop Q did that. And, we had some roots, dug some roots into the LBC. And really that's where it all started for me, man. Living in Long Beach, California was a blessing because although there are some challenges in regards to, going out throughout the city, throughout schools, and not really seeing too many people that look like you, is certainly an advantage of living in such a diverse city like Long Beach, Coach. So, yeah.
Right. I mean, it is very easy for us to really accept people's humanity and also vibe with the majority of the people it is that, I mean, you're the first one that ever brought me into Hollywood, and we bump into all kind of people, all walks of life, whether it's me speaking on stage in various areas all over the country or you hosting a show. And then so you talk about really the uniqueness of the variety and the multitude of different type of races and people all over the LBC that has really built who it is that you've become. Talk about a little bit about that, about really having compassion for other people, respecting all people. I mean, what a notion in this time right now, right, Q?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
how has that helped you forge this really approachable person that is Joey Quenga today?
Oh man, thank you for that, Coach. Yeah, like I said, like I alluded to earlier, growing up in such a diverse city is definitely an advantage. And as I get older, as I visit other cities and other communities across the country and the world, it really brings me back to my roots in Long Beach, in a city that has obviously affluent parts of the city, and then there are some marginalized, more
Right?
financially strapped parts of the city. And you coming from Southern California, in LA County, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But what does this do for a young person, right?
Right.
This gives you the ability to talk to just about anybody. And especially being a Pacific Islander, being a native Hawaiian Pacific Islander, there's not really a lot of folks that look like us outside of
Mm,
our relatives. So we gotta understand and learn how to navigate between worlds. And essentially that's what I did, man. It's like you have the ability, or I had the good fortune of hanging with the jocks, and then hanging with the more artistry and more like studious
hmm
folks. And so and then the rich folks, and then the folks that were are working, the blue collar workers.
hmm
And then being in that environment, you feel like you could talk to anybody. And then just coming at kind of having that mana, as we say in our community. People understand when you're genuine, and they understand when you're empathetic. And I think it
hmm
really resonates to a lot of people out there, and I think it's refreshing for a lot of people. So
That's right. That's right.
yeah.
Along with your humor and the fact that oftentimes a lot of people that almost come off the wrong way, right, Q? They
Yeah.
make a person other than themselves the blunt of the joke. Versus every time I'm around you, you're always making yourself the focus of the humor, right? How about that?
Right.
And that's almost like poly humor, right? What is that all about?
Well, I mean, it's like we want everybody to feel good. We want
Mm,
everybody to have a good time, and you don't want to laugh. You don't want to laugh by saying anything disparaging to anybody else. And I think that's a cultural thing. I think that there are a lot of really beautiful cultures out there, but I can only speak from our experience as
hmm
Pacific Islanders. Respect is a big thing, and humor is a big thing.
right?
Food is a big thing, and
Food,
so
yeah.
it doesn't bother me if I'm teasing myself.
hmm
I would do that more often than I would try to tease anybody else. But I will tell you this though, Coach,
Yes.
in emceeing shows around the world, and concerts, it's so funny because we had the reputation of being kind of like very quick-witted, right?
hmm
And
hmm
quite often I would look out in the crowd, and I would say some jokes or whatever, and I'm sure there were some people that took offense to it. By and large, people laughed, but it's always. And then I would question myself, oh man, is this going to really offend? Am I going to get jumped after this after this
Yeah, right,
show?
right, right.
But I would look out in the crowd, and there's always that like one real street guy, that real tough guy that's like, "Yo, bag on me, bag
Yeah,
on
yeah,
me."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I just think that just says a lot about our people. We're like, hey, we just want to have a good time, man, and have lighthearted fun, and so self-degrading humor is nothing. I think we all share in that sentiment. But yeah, I, I'm going all over the place, Coach, because there's so much I want to tell you. There's so many things
Right.
that I want to say on the
No,
show.
that's
So
awesome.
anyway, yeah.
That's awesome. So LBC,
Mhm.
elementary school, you and your boy Fritz, walking with people
Yeah.
that we know all, or people that you mean. When I first heard you tell this story about walking to school with particular people, I was like, you knew that person, and then this humor, and then also trying to navigate and figure things out, right? Because
Right.
So first off, just tell your story. Well, like, well, where did you go to elementary school, junior high, high school, growing up in the neighborhood? You and Fritz. I mean, I didn't know until a conversation last week how far you two go back. Talk
Oh
about some
yeah.
of that.
Oh yeah. So shout out to my brother Fritz. I call him my brother because there are certain you got boys, you
Mm,
got friends, and then you got people who are like family to you. So shout out to you, my man. So we grew up on the same street. We lived in a very, like I said, we lived in a very middle class, diverse neighborhood in
hmm
right in the central part of Long Beach, California. If you lived on this side of the street, then you went to another school. If you lived on this side of the street, you went to more affluent school. But
hmm
yeah, there were a lot of very famous people that lived within that neighborhood. Comedian Ricky Harris, rest in
hmm
peace. Who else was in there? A lot of athletes lived in there. Uh, we lived on 32nd, 33rd. Snoop was in like the 20s, so within blocks of
hmm
Snoop Dogg and Cameron Diaz was a was a friend, and I don't really talk about this because it's been so long. It's not like
Right.
we have a connection now, but growing up, you see people like Nate Dogg, Snoop Dogg, Willie McGinnis lived within, a couple miles from us. But Cameron Diaz was one of our personal friends. Fritz and I, excuse me, we would walk to school together,
Wow.
and it's so crazy, Coach, because she was just a ball of energy back then. And what you see on screen, and when you watch her laugh during interviews, the exact same way she laughs
hmm
on interviews now, or when we saw her on TV, was exactly how she laughed back in the day. And
Right.
so, it was definitely a blessing to see friends kind of take it to that next level.
Wow.
And it makes you think. Tyus Edney, as I'm thinking about this, Tyus Edney played for UCLA, and then
hmm
played for the Kings in the NBA, and so I
hmm
mean, you see these folks have a certain level of success in whatever industry or passion that they have, and then it forces you to go, yo, you know what, if they can do that in something that they're
Mm.
passionate about, then yo, why can't I? And I think it just goes back to that mindset of, if you believe it, you can achieve it, right? So yeah, it's definitely as I look back, some pretty cool things about the LBC.
And some cool people, right? So
Yeah,
is Tyus Edney the dude that went court to court and won in the final? Was it the Final Four, Sweet 16?
that's him. We all went to school together. So
Holy,
him, Cameron, Tyus. Yeah,
right.
yeah. He
Willie
went.
McGinnis, multiple Super Bowl champion. I mean,
Oh, he
SC
well
great,
he
right?
went to Poly. Yeah, and yeah, crazy. Some incredible athletes that have done some historic things. And look at, here we are, 30 years later, and you're mentioning the court to court 0.4 seconds or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah, yeah.
and so yeah, those are the folks that did some amazing things. And really, Coach, you know like your show does, like the intent of Island City is
Yes, sir.
really just to show our community, hey, you can achieve some amazing things if you work hard, you put your mind to it. And not to say that everything pans out, but uh at least you're trying, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and
yeah.
you're trying to take it to the next level.
Yeah, in that, did you see yourself? So we're still in your elementary growing up phase, right? Walking to school with Fritz and Cameron Diaz,
Yeah, crazy, right?
right? I mean, that's pretty amazing right there. But then I talk about this notion to kids and to also professionals and very highly successful people that I coach is like, why not me? Why not you? Why
Right.
not we? If someone else can, we can too. Did you have that type of vision or forecast for yourself in the future? Did that was that at all in your mentality growing up, Q?
Hmm. Um, although I probably never really verbalized it, I think in the back of
Mhm.
my mind, I had a lot of examples around me, peers, like I said, like I mentioned earlier, who were succeeding. But really, my prime example was my pops.
Mm,
My pops and my family, and like so many of us who revere the elders in our family, and hold them to a higher level of respect. Here's a young man that that joined the Navy right out of high school. Didn't have a higher education, didn't go to college, and made a name for himself not only in the military but in the community.
Mm,
And so did I know that I was going to? And coach, I'll tell you, like I've not yet reached the level of success that I want to. And I think that all of us who are insatiable about that, all of us that
mm-hmm,
strive to be better will never want to be complacent and say, "Yep, I've made it," because I certainly
mm,
haven't.
mm,
I certainly haven't, right? But my Tata Chua, he's a grandfather figure, my eldest uncle, technically, but you know how it is when you're in the Islander household. He had the saying, and the saying was in Chamorro, it was "Fanusuni una sinyaha,"
mm,
and so I'll say that the translation of that is if you believe in it, you can achieve it. Essentially, is
mm.
what that message was. You can do anything that you want, that you put your mind to. So I would always say that, and he would, before I went off to school, before I went off to college, he would say the same thing. Before I went out to high school, he would say the same thing, and I'm like, all right, okay, pop, okay, you're right. Cuando suni una senior high. And what it did was it just instilled, without like pounding it in my head. He
Mm,
was just planting seeds. He was
mm,
just planting seeds of, inspiring me and empowering me.
mm.
And here we are decades later, and he's since passed. But his message still resonates with me.
Yeah, shout out to Pops. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
man.
And we share those similarities. I've been very fortunate to be around some amazing people throughout my lifetime, both in my
Yeah.
failures, my self-sabotage, as well as when I started to progress, become self-aware, and then really get to a level of achievement that I've never had before. But really, my two heroes that really empowered and inspired me to do so are my mom and dad. And as you talk about
Mm.
that, right? Because they instill in us, when you say the word insatiable, I just like to have the listening audience look that word up, insatiable, which it comes from, it's a sexual term, to be unsatisfied, to
Mhm.
not be quenched, to still thirst. So the slang term thirsty, right, kind of comes from that,
Yeah.
in various ways, right?
Right.
But I love how you say that, because really, I believe, um, eh, those are the success frameworks. As I talk about here on the Coach V show about success and life fulfillment, those are the things that I want to make sure that I'm always bringing to consideration to the listening audience. In that, an example is, right, because leaders come to me and we talk about, yeah, people will only do partly what you say, but they're going to do 100% of what they see you do. And
Mm.
when our parents tell us those type of terms, along with, if you don't do this, you're going to get it, right? That's how we grew up. But then
That's
you
right.
also see the example, the striving, the perseverance of our elders, your dad, for me, my mom and dad, and how to make things work, have became a prime example. Anything else that you, if when I say that, what does that come to mind for you? Did it have any realness in really how I describe it, to not be content? I mean, you're the CEO of Island City Media Group, and we're still in the beginning stages of your story, but how
Right.
that planted that seed of want more. It's better to shoot too high and miss, still hitting great heights, versus shooting too low and hit. Your thoughts on that power of example, empowerment, and your dad being a hero and an example for you, Q.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll say this, that when you take a look at, the example I was given with my father, and how he navigated to the United States, right? Did some things that wasn't typical in his family.
Mm,
Thought outside of the box. He wasn't going to
mm,
work, and I'm not disparaging any career that our people have. If you're out there making an honest living, I commend you. I salute you.
right.
Um, but he took a chance and didn't do the typical things that our family at that time were doing. And he said, you know what? I'm going to go to a place. I'm going to be uncomfortable, And you and
Mm.
I talk about this all the time, but I'm going to be uncomfortable for the sake of my family to provide them an opportunity that I didn't have. And so as I think about that, as I think about his story, right? I always I kind of think about my journey through media. And I mean, this is not something that is typical in our community.
Mm.
You don't turn on the TV and see, I mean, you may see The Rock, you may see
Us.
Jason
Yeah.
Momoa, you
Right.
know. And shout out to the boys too, man, because they're
Yeah.
doing a
Shout
great
out
job.
to The Rock and yeah, Jay.
But
Yeah.
but you don't turn on the news and see the lead anchor man, a Polynesian. You don't turn on the 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 radio typically and listen to a Micronesian or a Melanesian song. So it's about exploring. It's about using the heart and the spirit of our ancestors as navigators and navigating
Mm.
to a new journey.
Right. So in that, share with us. So you've been doing that though since playing football, instruments that most people or jocks don't play, participating in the arts in which all the rest of us jocks were out lifting or trying to do other things. You really always had um, this voyage of trying what even your peers or your homies weren't doing, but you felt this call to do so. So now let's talk junior high, high school, and unpack that for those of that don't know the story like I do. You playing these instruments. I was like, you play what? Like, what's some of that all about in this voyager in you, and to do what's never been done, even though you haven't even experienced anyone that was an example like that around you.
Right. Yeah. So what you're alluding to, Coach, and I'll go ahead and get more specific, is man, I've always I've always accepted the term nerd, and I
Mm,
revel in that, and
mm,
like I'm okay with it. Like I don't know why, I don't know where that came from, but man, you know what? I've if there let's just put it this way: I've played all of the nerdiest instruments ever. I've played the xylophone, the violin, the French horn. I am, Coach, an award-winning accordion player.
right, right.
I can't believe I'm saying this.
No, this is
But
awesome
but
because a lot
I
of
think
people, a lot of people, that's not on the forefront of their mind about, hey, fulfillment comes by
right.
doing some of these things that I don't see around me, but it called you. So please go on. That's awesome that you would share that.
It was crazy. I played the French horn in high school. I was on the varsity football team, and there was one moment, one story in particular, where the orchestra would, in halftime, there was a performance that they set up for the halftime show.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, I'm in the middle of a game. I think we're up, by a couple touchdowns. It's been so long, but I'll spare you the details. But needless to say, I had to make a decision
Right,
to be on the football to be on the football field, or be in the locker room, or
right,
to go out, grab my French horn, and
right.
play. And so I chose the latter of the two, and here I
In
am
pads, in
in
pads.
pads. Well, I took my shoulder pads off, but I had my jersey on, pads, French horn,
Right.
halftime, and people are scratching their head like, "What is wrong? What is wrong with this dude?"
Right.
But I mean, it's that. I think whenever anybody in high school, I'm sure there's a lot of kids out there who, I mean, they just want attention. Maybe it was that, but for me, I was like, I really enjoy playing this French horn, and I
Right.
really enjoy playing in orchestra. So it was kind of like a crazy dynamic, if you will, as see a football player playing the French horn. Anyways, but I think that really speaks to who I am. It's like, I'm not afraid if I enjoy it, and I encourage everybody out there who is tuned in or watching. If it's something that you enjoy, do it.
Mm,
Don't don't be boxed into a certain stereotype. You
yes, sir.
know, you just do it. And
Right.
for me, I look at artists out there who are successful, and it's not the ones that look like everybody else. It's the
Right.
ones who have that unique personality, that unique sound.
Right.
What differentiates you from everybody else? It's your passion. So find your passion. Don't be boxed. Don't be stereotyped into looking, just because you play football, you're an athlete and you beat up, you bully everybody, and you
Right.
don't do good in school. Like, yo, kick those norms out of the way. And it's cool to be smart. It's cool to study. It's cool to play the French. Well, it's not cool to play the French horn, but it's cool to be you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's interesting, right, Q? Because now with the level of awareness and the maturity, either through
Hmm.
successes, tying successes together, or
Right.
failing and figuring out that we should appreciate things, I from the stands would now be like, seeing you come out in the French horn in your football pads on the unders and the jersey and playing the French horn, I would be saying that that's everything that's right, right?
No,
Because
thank you, coach. Yeah.
no, but really, right? I mean, that's the level of awareness that we need to be now in terms of allowing and accepting a calling and letting our kids try some of these things, right? In which
Right.
cases it's helped you become a lot more rounded as a person, which is really evident being around you. Like you'll grab a guitar, you grab my ook when you came here to my house. I was like, man, I had this ook. I've had it for 2 years. I can't tune it. And you just grabbed it, jumped on YouTube, and you just tuned it up. I was like, so you have
Yeah.
these gifts and abilities, and really to have the audacity to go out and do those things, that's pretty amazing. And that's a great insight. I mean, right? Because
No,
a lot of us are
thanks.
going to be like, oh yeah, I better not do that because people are going to make fun of me. It just looks weird. It doesn't fit, right? Like you're saying,
Right.
break the norms.
Yeah.
Anything lastly on that as I was talking that comes to mind before we go into your transition from high school to San Francisco State?
Um, nah, coach. I mean, that's really the mission of, and I know we're going to get into this later. I don't want to put
Yes, sir. No, that's
the
okay. Go
cart in
ahead.
front of the
Touch on it
horse,
now, please.
breaking the norms, man. That's the entire mission of Island City Media. You
Mm,
know, the norm is our people not having a voice, not having representation.
yes,
So we're going
sir.
to break those norms, you know, and we're going to do it through shows like the Coach V Show. We're going to do it through, many of the other platforms and the talent that we have. And so we're going to break those norms. I'm confident of it, 100%. So,
Man, and I appreciate the opportunity afforded to me a couple years back to start the Coach V Show. Now we're going into all these other platforms, podcasts, and all that. So publicly,
yeah.
Q, I just want to thank you for that opportunity. So now you're in junior high, high school. Were you thinking college? What was the process that really bridged you from Southern California,
Mm,
right, LBC, to San Francisco State? Because at that
right.
time, you're a few years ahead of me, but I remember going in my first year in junior college and joining the Pacific Island Club. Shout out Mount Sac out there in Walnut. Shout out to the Sac Dogs.
The
Is
Sag
the
Dogs.
UCLA stats, Q, right? And you know this, the UCLA stats that came out that there were more Polynesian, Tongan, Samoan, Micronesian, Melanesian young men in jail than in higher education. I've heard you talk about this story before, but yet you bridge that to be able to get there. How did that,
Right.
in terms of breaking down your norms, your barriers, having the audacity to think that you can, and then the vision, and then actually the execution and performance to make that happen? Because the majority of Polynesians, Islanders, Pacific Islanders, and people that grew up in the LBC, Pomona, in the 310, right, 909 areas that we grew up in, they were not being able to execute on those type of dreams. What made you different,
Right.
Key?
Um, it's like you said, man. It goes back to pops and
Mm,
living in such a diverse community. I got to tell this story, Coach.
please.
So, I'm in high school, senior year of high school. In high school, the games are played on a Friday. For us, and shout out to my coaches, we would always there were some teams, and maybe you could attest to this. There are some teams that wait till Monday to watch film, but
Mm,
our team, we would go on campus and watch film on Saturday mornings.
yes,
I don't
sir.
know if that's I don't know if that's norm, but that's what it was for our high school in Long Beach, Milliken High School.
Yes, sir.
So there was one Saturday morning. We get on campus. We watch the film. It's they expect us there at 8. I think we're out by like 9 or 10. And then we come out of the film room, and then there are students on the campus,
Mm,
and I'm like, "Yo, what are you guys doing here? It's Saturday." And they turn to me, Q, it's the SATs today.
mm.
This is how ignorant I was. This is how naive I was. Coach, I didn't know. I didn't take the SATs. My
Mm,
pops didn't go to school. Nana didn't go to school. And I'm not saying anything about that they didn't have those opportunities. I had
mm.
the opportunities. But I at that point, I was like, I should be taking. This is how naive I was. I was like, hey, can I go up there and take it?
Yeah, right. Right now. Can I
Can
just
I
sign
take
up
it
right
right
now?
now?
Yeah, yeah,
Can I
yeah.
sign up right now to go take it? Because I know I need this to get into college from what you guys are saying. This is pretty important, right? Can I go take? No, you got to sign up for this.
That's right.
Like weeks, months in advance. I had no idea.
Mm,
And at that point, that was a real eye opener for me as a young man. And yeah, I could have said, oh no, it's because my parents didn't go to school. They didn't tell me, but it wasn't their fault. It was my fault, right?
mm.
I and so that clicked into my head, and I said, I'm going to college. Maybe it might not be the traditional route. Maybe I might need to go to a junior college, which is fine because I need to kind of find my way out, figure my way, and navigate through this whole deal. But that was the route that I took, Coach, and it was that conversation that made me pick up the phone and call my nephews and my nieces, right, who are younger than me. And
Mhm.
so I would call all of them. I called all of them.
Mm.
I was like, did you schedule the SATs? Did you schedule the SATs? Like now, because that was my, and you say it all the time, I'll take this from you, Coach. You got wins and you got not losses, you got lessons. That
Lessons.
was
Yes,
my
sir.
that was my lesson. And so I said, and we all know this, if you have a younger siblings, your nieces and nephews, yo, they look to us for
Mm.
examples. You don't need to take that loss if I took the lesson. So um, yeah, that was a story that was very impactful for me. Left high school, went the JUCO route. Um, Shout out to the Vikes, Long Beach City Vikes. I
Long
gotta
Beach
say,
CC. Yeah.
yeah. And then so played ball there, and then one thing I realized is that in playing at Long Beach, being in a diverse city and being in a city that has amazing athletes,
Mhm.
I knew that football probably wasn't going to be my thing. But I did take pride, Coach, in saying that I'm going to use football for my education. And
Right.
how do you do that? Junior colleges, they don't give scholarships for junior colleges, but what do they give athletes? They give athletes preferential treatment when you got to pick your classes,
Your
where
class's
somebody
priority registration.
you got priority registration.
Mhm.
You got all these resources allotted to you. All you got to do is work your ass off in the football field, get good grades, do
Right?
the right thing. And so that was my way of saying, no, I'm not going to, we all hear about the stories of schools using football players. Well, you know what? I'm a football player. I'm a student that is going to use football.
That's right.
And so that's what I did. Spent a couple years there at Long Beach City, and then had the opportunity to play at a Division II. It's not a big school. Definitely not a football powerhouse because of the fact that I went there, went through spring ball, went there, and then they cut the football program
Right,
at
right,
San Francisco State. So I'm
right.
like, okay. But I enjoyed the campus so much. I was at a 4-year college, 4-year university, San Francisco State University. Made some tremendous friends, very close friends. And when they said you can leave this campus and you could go play anywhere, if there's a team that'll accept you, you don't have to uh, wait like the NCAA rules mandate
Mhm.
you to. You're eligible to play immediately. And I said, I'm done. I'm here on campus, and I loved it at San Francisco State. So being the first on both sides of my family to attend a 4-year university and graduate was, I would say, was a big accomplishment for me, for a
Mm.
young Joey Quenga, and to be able to go to my nephews and nieces and folks of that nature and say, yo, if I could do it, you certainly could do it. I know I'm not the smartest one, but there's a lot to be said about hard work.
So you figured out the process. You took
Hmm.
advantage of being an athlete for priority registration. So you figured out the system, and
Right.
then you helped that elevate and really connect and bridge you to your opportunity at San Francisco State. Talk about while you were there. Um, you were a Tau man. You created and helped found that organization, and then really you finished. And to me, that's huge. It's like college may not be everything. And so
Hmm.
a lot of people in my entrepreneurial space are always saying, well, you don't need college. I think that's a ripoff. So to me, it's really up to the individual in terms of how they want to invest in themselves to figure things out. To me, college can be a major jungle that we send our kids into to really figure out how to survive, right? And then
Right.
you were able to go there and finish and then create something that really impacts the community and so many other people now through the brotherhood that you guys founded there. Talk about that.
Yeah. So San Francisco State, again, the school's been around for over 100 years, and it is in San Francisco. There's a huge Polynesian community in South San Francisco, San Mateo, and things of that nature, surrounding cities. So you'd be surprised. Well, I was surprised that there was not a Pacific Islander club on
Right.
campus. Guys like you and I who walk on campus generally will look across the campus and not see someone that looks like us.
Right.
And then when you do see someone, they could be 200 yards away, and you're like, "Yo!" Like you give the nod, and and instantly there's like a brotherhood. Well, anyways,
Right.
it surprised me that there was not a Pacific Islander club on campus, and myself and a bunch of a bunch of friends got together, and it's a matter of doing the paperwork and kind of organizing. And I think that's something that I've always had the ability to do, is really rally the troops and kind of help lead. But I love to lead from the front
Mm,
instead of the back. But I'll say this, and I don't ramble on, but back when I was going to school, uh, Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders on campuses of and institutes of higher learning, we were an anomaly.
mm,
And my particular campus, the rate of students that identified themselves as Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders was 0.06,
right.
less than 1 point,
1%. Yeah.
less than 1%. And
Yeah.
of that 0.06%, less than half of those were men.
That's right.
Because I've talked about this earlier. Our Pacific Islander women have been holding it down and
Right.
and setting a great example. But where were the guys, right? So,
Right.
um, fortunately, at that time, there were a couple of Chamorros, myself and my cousin Chemo. There were a couple of Samoan guys that were on there, Yoelu and Randy. Shout out to the boys. There were a couple of Tongans that were on there, Sepione and Joe,
Mm-hmm.
and we got together and formed the first Pacific Islander fraternity. And
Mm-hmm.
why is this important? For us, we were already on campus. Why were we going to do it? One, it really, I've always known that if you want to influence the next generation, you got to make whatever you want to happen look cool.
Right. Right.
And,
Right.
and
Right.
that's just it, right? Like playing football is cool. Yeah, I'm gonna try out. Fraternities and sororities, yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna join that. And then studies have shown that if the more you participate in on-campus activities,
Yeah.
extracurricular
Engagement.
activities, whether
Yes.
that's sports, whether that's community orgs, that the chance of you dropping out of school decreases.
Decreases. Yes, sir.
So we created Tau Omega Alpha. So when you read it across,
Toa.
it reads Toa,
Yes,
which
sir.
you and I both know means warrior. And so we took this warrior approach in getting to school, navigating to school, and we took this fierce warrior approach. Yo, we're gonna study. We're gonna hold each other accountable.
Mm,
Study. Yo, Walu, you're the only Samoan mathematician that I know.
mm.
You're incredibly smart. I'm holding you accountable that you kill this final. Like it was like on that level. And so, shout out to my brothers from Tau Omega Alpha, Hugo Stanley, and I can't name all of them, but I thought that what we built there was pretty cool. And then, it came back, man, full circle. I would say about 10, 15 years after I left that campus, there was Tau Omega Alpha in Southern California.
Mm.
And yeah, so one of the professors at UCLA is Tau Omega Alpha. One of the in the Obama administration, he was I think he was a chair for the White House Asian and Pacific Islander caucus, was in
Mm.
Tau Omega Alpha. Yeah, so like we have the Small Business of Nevada commissioner was in Tau Omega Alpha. Shout
Mhm.
out to Evan out there. So it's not about quantity; it's about quality. We have some
Right.
really high quality guys in the fraternity. So big ups to those guys.
So I did misspeak. So to your brothers and to you, Q, I called it a
Mhm.
Tau man, but it's a Toa man for Tau
Oh man, yeah,
Omega Alpha. So but I
yes sir.
apologize about the misspeaking there. Show your boy some grace, my bad. But shout out to TOA and
Yeah,
the Toa men out there making an impact. So now you graduated from high school, you
yep.
transitioned into what was the just really the early development of what became what you are now. Talk about that and having really this dream to give a voice. You talk about this all the time in our meetings for Island City Media Group is this representation, how the
Right.
census is involved with that. And I really had no idea. So I was in on the fact that I could be on a platform that's in Hollywood, that's broadcasting to the world. And then you added this purpose that's a people purpose, community purpose that I really wasn't aware of when you called me on that day. It's like, hey, what about having a show? And then when that hit on another level, and
Right.
the way you explain it, and the reason why media is so important, just not for every. I mean, for this is something that's important for every ethnic group and every people of all colors and races out there, but
Sure.
specifically because we were absent. Talk about that, Q.
Yeah. So myself and Joe Favai, I got to give him a shout out.
Yeah, shout
Uh,
out Joe
re-
Sav. Yeah.
really were the were kind of leading this charge, and so we had over 20 years of experience in working with community based organizations, and it was 2009, and so the 2010 census was coming up, and
Right.
as you know, Coach, the census is super important for all communities. This is how federal funding is allocated to each ethnic group, each community. And so essentially, the census will count how many people are in this particular community or the city. And then they will kind of give funding and monies depending on how many people are there. So you gotta get counted. As an executive director for a nonprofit organization that was based in Long Beach, and it was a Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander serving organization, I applied for some funding from a foundation that would give monies so that we can advertise, market, and tell our people, hey, get out there, get counted. This is very important for our people. All right. Applied alongside other ethnic groups. The African American brothers and sisters, they applied, they got accepted. Asian American brothers and sisters, they applied, they got accepted. Latino, same thing, they applied, got accepted. So we applied on behalf of our community. When they received our application, they reviewed it, turned it back to us, and said, I'm sorry, but we cannot accept this. Your application has been denied. And I know, Joseph knew at the time that was it didn't seem fair. It didn't sit well with us.
Mm.
And as you're listening to this, you're probably scratching your head. As you're watching this, you're probably making a funny face like, yo, that doesn't even sound right. But when they explain the reason why we
Mm.
got rejected, then it lit a fire, and it kind of gave me and Joe and I the idea of what we're doing right now. So they basically explained it to us like this, Coach. They said there is no form of ethnic media for your community, and so there's no Telemundo, there's no Univision, there's no BET. They were absolutely right, Coach. And
Mm,
instead of being pissed off and writing a mean email and this isn't right, I decided we decided to take that energy and create something beautiful. And we started
mm.
off with a singular show called the Barbecue Show, which, in looking back, the name is probably the most ill-advised name to have if you if you go to any PR firm like a barbecue show. I was just hungry. The producer needed a name, and that was it. But that show got syndicated to a station in Los Angeles, in Vegas, and in Arizona. We built quite a listening audience because there was nothing. We were we really had our pulse on our community. This was the show for them. This is the people
Mm-hmm.
show, right? So that got picked up by Dash Radio. Shout out to Ski, J Love, and the entire Dash team.
Yeah.
We built that one show to a station, which was Island Black, and which is now Island City. So um, you know, there's a reason behind everything we do, and there's a reason behind picking people who are powerful in the community, like yourself, Coach,
Thank you.
and in partnering with folks like DJ Green, is
Yeah. Shout
because
out
this is
DJ Green.
this, yeah, man. I mean, this is not about Coach V. This is not about Q. This is not about DJ Green, but this is about providing a platform for our voice to be heard.
That's awesome. So now you're on. So you press this reset, and now it's Island City Media. Take
Yeah.
a couple minutes. I mean, and you just alluded already, but just hit us with this is what it's about. Island City Media Group. This is what we're about. What about a forecast for the future? What can we expect as the audience and the only right? Am I right? Pacific Island ethnic group that broadcasts from Hollywood, California, and then also on YouTube, Facebook. We're going to be doing all that. But really, I mean, Island City Media Group, which you are the CEO, is the only one that broadcasts from Hollywood, California. What's the why? Get to the meat of it and tell us what to expect in the future, please, Q.
Really, Coach, it holds true, and we've always been we've been steadfast in our mission to provide the voice for our people, to be the
Mm,
clearinghouse for anything Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander that comes out of the United States. And being in a city like Hollywood, California, the entertainment capital of the world,
mm.
holds a little bit of weight when we're able to say, yeah, we broadcast out of Hollywood. And you and I know Hollywood is just another part of Los Angeles, but to the
Mm.
rest of the world, they understand what that comes with, and we understand, and we're mindful of the type of the type of influence that has to folks who are wanting to do this around the world. And so when I say that we want to be the clearinghouse for anything NHPI in the
Mm.
United States, we have shows that are based in Seattle, shows that are based in Elk Grove, San
Easy.
Francisco,
Hmm.
San Diego, and Hawaii, and so we're going to, we've done the radio thing. We're going to continue to do that. That's clicking on a pretty good level right now, and we're onboarding new shows every quarter. And we're going to take that to the next level, and without giving away too much, Coach, we're going to have a more visual component.
I love
We've
it.
added a young, very talented staff writer, Kaylani Mayo, who's based in San Jose, who will be doing, like, not print production, but she'll be doing our write-ups. Like, we have graphic designers, we have videographers, editors that we use in New Zealand,
Mm.
videographers that are, so really it's to take our mission and to continue to press forward and continue to build this platform, and really give a voice. Like I said, kind of going back, that's going to be a reoccurring theme for this interview, is really to give back to our people, and highlight the many talents of our community.
You're listening to the Coach V Show, where iron sharpens iron. Together we rise. Brother Q, could you please just like what is a send off, shout out? So a send off and shout out in terms of life lessons that you want to make sure you come across before we hit putting putting you on the Coach V hot seat and just asking you what you think about when I say these certain quotes. Is there any shout outs that you want to make and some final thoughts about Q to the world, at least in terms of who tunes into the Coach V show and now on this visual platform that we're going to be able to
Right.
bring to the world? Is there any shout outs, send offs that you'd like to message final as a final here?
Yeah, man. I want to send a shout out to all the NHPI students right now, or
Mm,
the next generation who have aspirations of a career in media. And the reason I
mm,
want to do that is because we're holding true to our mission, Coach. And with the help of my brother Paul Timo, we are providing the Island City Media Scholarship that is going to
yeah.
be awarded here in quarter one. So I shout out to all of you. I implore you to and encourage you to apply for the Island City Media Scholarship. It's a nominal amount, but as we all know, in going through college, every little bit helps.
Yes, sir.
And if those folks who are tuned in right now find it in your heart to donate to this scholarship, we are doing it based on backed by a 501c3. So you will be receiving 100% of the donations go back to the students. So that is my shout out, Coach.
Yeah. So now we're gonna put Brother Q on the hot seat. I am going to
Uh-oh.
say a quote, and then Brother Q, Coach Q, is gonna
Okay.
tell us what his thoughts and what life lessons, what behavioral models, and what success frameworks that he could pull from his experiences and offer to you. Brother Q, when I say this term, and it comes from Henry Ford, where he says, um, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. What are your thoughts, Brother Q?
Man, that is such a salient point. It's so prolific. And that makes me think of a term a mantra that I live by. And that is attitude dictates altitude.
Altitude. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, like Mr. Ford said, wise words, very wise, experienced words. It's about your mindset, right? Fondo suni una sinya,
Yes,
as a
sir.
as a wise man once told me.
Yes, sir. Next one is life is
Yes,
struggle, struggle is life, misery is optional. Coach V quote. What's your thoughts on that, Q?
man, count your blessings, not your problems.
Mm,
You know, uh, we had the opportunity to write nasty emails. We had the
mm,
opportunity to rally our community and tell everyone how unfair this foundation was. But we took that energy that we would have used in doing that, and we built something incredibly beautiful. And that was a life lesson, Coach.
yes,
That
sir.
the best thing that could have ever happened to me was having that application denied on behalf of our community,
Right.
because that sparked our community service. That was a community service that I can get behind, that I can rally, and that I was passionate about. So misery is definitely optional.
And as you say that, there is a distinction that you made me very well aware of, as I'm deeply entrenched and I absolutely support the API community here in Sacramento, and the API community, the Asian Pacific Island community,
Hmm.
really supports Invictus Youth Foundation, which is my foundation here, along with the champions in our community. But you made a distinction for me that increased my awareness. This is not part of the hot seat, but I think people need to hear this, of why
Right.
the difference between how you associate and or define your mission as NHPI versus API, and the reasons why in terms of the data.
No, thanks for that question, Coach. As we all know, our Asian American brothers and sisters have always supported, like they've clumped us in the same ethnic group, and there
Yes,
are
sir.
many times where we have to stand in solidarity to support one another. But there are some certain times that we need to disaggregate the data. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about health statistics, for example. As an executive director for a nonprofit, that was really one of our missions, was to really tell the story and have data tell the story the health story, health data tell the story for our people. So when you take API as a whole and think of it as a pie, right? If you take a look at all the Asian, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Filipino, and then you take all of our Polynesian, Micronesian, and Melanesian folks, you put it in one pie, you think about that pie as like, where's their health statistics?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you clump them all together, that's a pretty healthy community. That's a pretty healthy group. But if you take the slice out and you analyze the NHPI, the Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander slice, the health statistics of this very hard to reach community, you'll find that we have the largest health disparities in the entire globe. The number, diabetes,
Right.
obesity, heart disease. So our mission in that particular organization really was to advocate for resources to help this impacted community. So don't get lost in the data and have it reflect something that it's not. The data will tell the story once you disaggregate and pull out this particular and analyze this community. So that's the reason why I make quite a distinction between API and NHPI, because as a Micronesian man, I can only speak about our community.
Right. And then really what it comes down to now is allocation of funding. Talk real quick about that.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to the census, right? It goes back to federal funding. And you know what? In working in the nonprofit sector, I got to give a shout out to everybody who leads and works in the nonprofit sector.
Yep,
really, a lot of those folks are their programming is based off of federal funding and grants and things of this nature. And it's tough. It's tough to advocate for a very small piece of the community. Like if you say, hey, I got $1 million, someone in government says, I got $1 million, I got to give it to a community that makes the most impact. It's likely not going to be our community because our numbers are so small. So like I said, going back to API brothers and sisters, our Asian American brothers and sisters, there are times when we need to stand together because we just quite simply don't have the numbers.
That's
and
right.
So together we're stronger. Together we rise, as Coach B says. But then there are times when we do need to separate and kind of analyze our health statistics in a disaggregated manner.
Yeah, and I really thank you for bringing that level of awareness and knowledge so that I can be accountable to not only representing what it is that we do for youth, but also representing the island and the island community and Pacific Island community where we come from, to not only be accountable to that, but also hold our county and our city elected officials who say they support us to be also keep it real. Like, yes, we are the same, but yet we're very different in terms of our needs. So thank you for that awareness and knowledge and wisdom to you, Q. For the final question on the
Yes, let's go.
Is there's money in the transaction, but the wealth is in the relationship. Coach V quote, what is your thought when I say that, Brother Q?
Man, a wise man once told me that the most valuable thing that anybody can give you is not money. It's time.
Yes, sir.
It's time, Coach.
Yes, sir.
So, I appreciate you. Man, we're going on. I think we're going on. Certainly past the second season. I think we're going on season number 3 with you.
Yes,
here
sir.
On the Coach B Show. So I appreciate you. And the family carving out time for you to do this, and shout out to Martha and the kids for letting you do this for 3 seasons. But I think it's important that we build these relationships. The only way that this world is going to heal is if we build relationships. And there is money in the transaction, as they say. And yeah, sure, you can cut a check, but really the real business, the real knowledge is the successful people know how to build relationships. And I think that's what that statement is alluding to.
Yeah, be fundamentally sound in the relationships and make the paper too. Right? Yeah. Let's go. So Q, man, thank you so much for joining and being my first ever Zoom interview and allowing us the opportunity on the Coach V Show to feature you, and just the tremendous amount of wisdom, knowledge it is that you bring to the API game, to the NHPI game, and to all
Yep.
it is that you touch and do. I really do wish you, the Island City Media Group family that we're all a part of, just a happy, healthy, and a prosperous 2021. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Q.
Right on, Coach V. Thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
you, brother.
brother. It is of great importance for each of us to better ourselves, not only just for the sake of success, but for the sake of being our best. In doing so, we realize the best of our abilities and that everything and anything that we dream and work for can be achieved. This is how this success coach, keynote speaker, Hollywood radio host, and author lives, all about faith and family. Grateful for God's amazing grace. Until next time, here on the Coach V Show, wishing you one love, amazing health and prosperity always, where iron sharpens iron. Together we rise. Peace.